today's live stream, I'm going to talk about producing memorable music. Producing memorable music. This is an important topic of discussion, and I did a post recently about this, and I want to take the time to talk about it. I'm just going to hold off before I get started for producers to join in, and we could get started once people are in. Now, for those of you watching the restream, I just want to let you guys know that next week there's going to be a live training, and it's going to be awesome. This live training is going to cover a lot of interesting points about how best to allocate your time for high level productivity and seeing a difference in terms of how you're producing in a short period of time versus it taking forever. This whole thought process of like working smarter, more effective versus working harder. I'm going to apply that concept to music production. It's going to be very helpful. That's going to be a live training for next week. And following from there, for the week after, there's going to be a track feedback live stream. This is like the last 2 weeks of April. So I'm just going to get started. Now, I'm going to talk about being memorable. So I've spoken to like 1,000 producers, literally, in my career. Thousands of producers intimately. I've had conversations with a lot of them. And a lot of them always talk about wanting music, creating music, producing music that will be memorable. Memorable in the sense that when people listen to their music, they remember listening to it once. They're like, wow, that music was amazing. I'm going to go back to it. And that's how you ideally build fans. And that's how you ideally build super fans, right? So having music that's memorable. But how do you make something memorable? One of the first ways of doing that is writing music with your own sound, right? So a lot of producers ask me, Vardy, how do I come up with my sound? Coming up with your sound is not a preset you fall on. It's not the sound design thing you've done on Serum that you keep on using in every song that leads you to people saying like, wow, John sounds like a certain way, right? So once we find our sound, I'm going to explain to you how we do that. That's when we can be remembered. We all have a sound. A lot of us, majority of producers, haven't been to a point skill-wise where they've reached some form of mastery. That's why they have a hard time expressing themselves in production. They have a lot of good ideas. They put the ideas down, but it just doesn't translate into something memorable, something professional sounding. Now, let me backtrack here. How do you get to your sound? Your sound is not something that's in a VST. That's not a preset. That's not something you design and you keep on using. Your sound, if you want it to be timeless and memorable, is the thousands of decisions that you take that leads to your productions being different than mine or someone else's or another producer's, right? So we always got to remember here, when we're trying to mimic everyone else in the industry, we're going to sound like them. We might be a bit different than them. That's a strategy that some producers use to be able to get signed to labels, because labels these days have a sound, like good labels. You want to be on this label, you got to sound a certain way, right? And that's a bit of a problem, because when you're tilting too much to be able to sound like someone else, you start stepping away from what that sound is to you, right? And you're trying to fit it in with what works. This is a problem because we're doing art. Right now, I understand business is business and music needs to be monetized and labels need to make money and they've created their brand, whatever the reasoning is for why labels do whatever they do. You just have to remember, I'm assuming you do this because you want to love doing it. You don't want to get the success being at a place where you hate. So make sure you stay true to that. Make sure you stay true to the fact that you have a sound and your sound might not be melodic deep house. It might be a variation or a hybrid of subgenres, and stick to that. Explore that. Get better at that. Make sure you're going against the grain of what people are telling you to do because it's the only way, because there's no one way of doing it. So if we backtrack to the beginning of the conversation where I said you need to find your sound, right? And that's going to make you memorable. A lot of times your sound doesn't fit in a box. And to nurture that, you're going to have to become an expert. When I say an expert, someone that's highly effective with the tools they use, right? So in terms of process, it's quite straightforward. Don't give in to what the industry is kind of pushing people to do, producers to do. Work on your skills, get better, and the thousands of decisions that you take in your production, all those micro decisions fine-tuned through time, through increasing your expertise, that's when your sound comes out. When your sound comes out, your artistry has a brand now. Your artistry has a sound that people will eventually like and go to. Odds are you're not going to sound like anyone else. You're going to sound like yourself, and you might be a hybrid of multiple genres, and that's okay. And it'll be hard to find the label, and that's okay as well, right? Because we're in it not to find success tomorrow. We're in it to be able, A, to enjoy it highly, B, to communicate our message and express ourselves properly, and through that, get fans, right? We could talk a lot about marketing, but the whole point of today's producing memorable productions topic is for you to stick to going against the grain and not doing what everyone else is doing. What everyone else is doing isn't working. There's a few people that are actually making success out of that, and they're good at. If you want to do what everyone else is doing, you're going to sound like everyone else, and that's not what you want. So I hope this is helpful, guys. Again, just to remind you guys, next week there's a free live training, and then the week after that there is the track feedback session. Make sure you're at the live training to get priority for the track feedback session. It's going to be a great one this week. And if you're watching this and you found this helpful, if you want to invite people to this group, just send them the link and let them fill up the quick application so they could join the group. They're more than welcome. Make sure they do dance music and they're serious at producing music. Awesome. Hope this was helpful, guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you guys soon.